No one remembered their names anymore. Not even the council that left them to rot on that backwater mining rock orbiting the edge of the Vorta Nebula. They were workers once, humans, about 300 of them, shipped from Earth decades ago to mine plasma-rich mineral veins. A contract was signed with promises of wealth, return tickets, and protection from the Intergalactic Trade Authority. What they got instead was silence. The last supply ship came 11 years ago. After that, only dust storms and dying machines. The locals, a primitive insectoid species called the crani, avoided them like a curse. Whatever scraps the humans got, they fought for. When the generators failed, the air recyclers followed. When the food synth units broke down, they started boiling fungus from cave walls. Their leader, an ex-contractor named Garen, had warned them, "The galaxy doesn't care about us. Earth doesn't even remember we're out here." For the longest time, everyone believed him. Children were born in the dirt, learned to walk under a red sky poisoned with metallic ash. Those who remembered Earth spoke of it in fragments. Blue skies, green fields, rain that didn't burn your skin. My father used to talk about birds. I've never seen one, but he said they used to sing like freedom. I never really knew what freedom felt like. Then, last week, something changed. The sky cracked open, not metaphorically, literally. A low hum shuddered the mountains, followed by a blinding light that split the horizon. We thought it was another crani plasma quake, or worse, a shipwreck coming down in flames. But it was neither. It was a ship, and it bore the symbol of Earth. I couldn't believe it at first. None of us could. A clean, shining cruiser, not a battleship, not a transport junker, but an actual Earth-class recon vessel descended from the sky like something out of my father's broken stories. It landed just beyond the old comms tower, now little more than a skeleton of rust and wire. People gathered, afraid, skeptical. Garen was the first to move, shotgun in hand, his body trembling. Not with fear. Anger. "I buried 27 good men under this soil. We cried to Earth for a decade. They never came," he growled, teeth clenched. "Now they show up like we're worth saving?" But we followed him anyway. The ramp dropped with a hiss, and out stepped 2 soldiers, real ones, clean armor, Earth Federation insignias still glowing. One of them raised a hand, visor retracting to show a weathered face. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Briggs of Earth Defense Recon Division. We received your signal." That made Garen laugh, a hard, bitter laugh. "Signal? You mean the one we stopped sending 8 years ago?" Briggs didn't flinch. He looked around at the starving crowd, at the children clinging to makeshift cloth, and the bone-thin elders with sun-scarred skin. "You're not forgotten. We didn't know. But now we do. And I swear to you, by Earth's name, you're not alone anymore." That's when someone screamed. From the hills above, crani hunters emerged, maybe 40 of them, their glowing blades drawn. They'd always kept their distance, but now, sensing change, they smelled fear. Or perhaps they smelled war. Briggs didn't even blink. He raised a finger. His ship's turret rotated with a whir, then lit the sky in blue plasma fire. Half the crani were vaporized before their feet hit the sand. The rest ran. We didn't. We stood frozen. I felt something then, something I hadn't known before. It wasn't hope. It was rage. All this time, we begged, we waited, we starved, we buried our dead. We were forgotten. And now Earth shows up with weapons blazing, acting like heroes. I wanted to punch Briggs. I wanted to fall to my knees and cry. I wanted to believe him. Instead, I just stared and said, "Why now?" He looked me straight in the eyes and answered, Because they made the mistake of touching our own. And Earth doesn't forgive. That's when I knew something bigger had started. This wasn't a rescue, it was a reckoning. Briggs and his crew came with polished armor, clean boots, and voices that spoke like saviors. But we weren't a people who welcomed saviors anymore. We didn't cheer. We didn't wave flags. There were no tears of joy. We just watched. Watched them move like they owned the dirt we'd bled on for over a decade. Watched them scan our bodies with their sleek med devices, wrinkle their noses at our makeshift shelters, whisper to each other when they thought we couldn't hear. We saw everything. You said Earth didn't know, Garen spat, standing in the middle of the camp square, his weapon slung loose but eyes locked on Briggs like a coiled viper. That's a lie. I sent distress signals, for years. I reported system failures, food shortages, crew deaths. You ignored every damn one. Briggs didn't flinch. The system, Dash! The system, Garen roared. The system's what buried my wife in dry sand because we couldn't spare enough water to clean her wounds. The system's what made us eat fungus while Earth threw away leftovers. Behind Garen, people were gathering, watching, waiting. You came too late, he said, and I don't care what badge you flash. You don't belong here. Briggs looked over his shoulder at the other soldier, a younger man, silent and tense, then back at Garen. I get it, Briggs said finally. I do. You were abandoned. And we're not here to pretend that didn't happen. I'm not here to make speeches or apologies. I'm here to change what happens next. He stepped forward. We found out 2 years ago. A whistleblower in the Orbital Trade Syndicate leaked files, buried records, blacklists, ignored contracts. Your colony wasn't forgotten. You were erased. Written off after the corporation that sent you went bankrupt and bribed its way out of legal responsibility. Earth was complicit. They were paid to keep quiet. This operation? He gestured around. It's off the books. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling. You're saying Earth still doesn't know? Garen asked slowly. Briggs hesitated. Just long enough. Yes. That single word cut like a blade through all of us. We weren't being rescued. We were being hidden. They weren't here to help us. They were here to clean up the mess before the galaxy noticed. I knew it. I heard an old woman mutter behind me. They still think we're a stain they need to scrub out. I looked around. People had gone silent again, watching Briggs, watching Garen, watching each other. They'll wipe us out, someone whispered. No witnesses. Briggs stepped back, raising his hands. No one is being erased. We came to evacuate, relocate, and give you a chance to live again. You're not prisoners. You're not secrets anymore. You're survivors. Spare us the Earth PR, Garen said. You're talking like we should be grateful. I stepped forward then. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stay silent anymore. I was born here, I said. I've never seen Earth. My father told me stories about oceans, cities, music. He died in the tunnel collapse 6 years ago. Briggs looked at me, no mock sympathy in his eyes. Just tired resolve. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology, I replied. I want to know what you're really doing here, because I don't buy the whistleblower crap. Someone sent you, and someone wants us to either vanish quietly or make a lot of noise. Briggs hesitated, then gave a quiet nod. You're not wrong, he admitted. There's more going on than I can say. But this mission was approved by people who want to change things. There's a war brewing in the Trade Syndicate. Earth's population found out what the corporations did to people like you. There's unrest, riots. The media called you the ghost colonies. Ghost. That word sat heavy in the air. That's what we are to them, Garen said. Ghosts, skeletons rattling in the galaxy's closet. You came to put a blanket over the bones. No, Briggs snapped. I came to give you a voice. You think I volunteered for this suicide mission? You think I wanted to land on a dust rock crawling with hostile alien tribes and half-feral survivors with shotguns? I came because the bastards upstairs needed proof. Proof that Earth abandoned its own. That the corporations murdered hundreds and walked away. That made us freeze. Murdered? I asked. Briggs looked directly at me. Those mining machines you used? They were sabotaged. The oxygen failure? Not a glitch. Automated shutoff protocols. Your supply chain was rerouted, intentionally. Your distress signals were bounced back with dummy codes. We all stood there, stunned. It wasn't just neglect. It was a cover-up, a planned disappearance. You're saying they wanted us dead? Garen asked. I'm saying they were willing to let you die to protect their profits, Briggs said, voice low. And now that people back home are waking up, we have a chance to burn it all down. Silence, until someone clapped. Slow, dry, we turned. A man emerged from the far side of the square. Tall, thin, dark eyes like sharpened glass. He was one of ours, but not like us. His name was Halver, a tech engineer before the collapse. He'd vanished for years. Rumors said he ran experiments in the old reactor ruins, salvaging alien tech. Others whispered he'd gone mad. You're all so busy yelling at each other, Halver said. You forgot to ask the most important question. Briggs frowned. And that is? Halver smiled coldly. Why the Creanie suddenly attacked. The mood shifted instantly. You think it was the ship landing? I asked. Halver shook his head. I think it was something else. Something we triggered. He pulled a wrapped object from his satchel. Metal, glowing faintly with unstable pulses. 3 months ago, he said. I found this embedded near the Creanie burial mounds. It's human-made. Pre-war tech. Someone placed it there recently. Someone wanted to stir the Creanie up. Briggs took a step forward, eyeing the object. That's a tracker beacon, he muttered. Military grade. Who else knows about this? No one, Halver said, until now. Briggs turned to his partner, who had been silent the whole time. They exchanged a look. I think, I said quietly, you're not the only team Earth sent. Briggs didn't argue. That told us everything. This wasn't a rescue. This was a race. Get everyone to shelter, Briggs barked suddenly. Now! We might not be alone on this rock anymore. We scrambled. People ran for cover. Children pulled into tunnels. Garen stood still for a second, watching Briggs, weighing whether to fight him or follow. Then he nodded, just once. You better not be lying again, he said. If I were, Briggs replied, we'd already be dead. The night came fast, red and cold and humming with danger. I didn't sleep. None of us did. In the sky above, more lights flickered behind the clouds. Ships, not ours. And far beneath us, in the dead tunnels of the mines, something else had begun to stir. Something that was neither human nor Creanie. Something buried when Earth abandoned us. Something that never forgot. The wind howled through the broken towers of our ruined comms hub, dragging sand like knives across rusted hulls. The stars were out, shimmering over a planet that had forgotten how to dream. We hadn't slept. None of us. Not with the sky flickering in unnatural ways. Not with the Creanie's sudden aggression. And not with the realization that Earth's hands were still dipped in our blood. Even after all these years. Briggs didn't say much after the beacon reveal. He and his quiet partner spent the next hour working silently, setting up perimeter scans, fixing motion trackers around the colony walls. Garen, to his credit, didn't shoot either of them. But he didn't trust them, not even a little. Neither did I. The worst part? I still wanted to trust them. That made me more angry than anything. We were huddled around the old fusion vent near the heart of the colony, keeping warm off what was left of the power cores. Half the crowd had vanished into tunnels, hiding in the lower sectors we'd carved out over years of survival. The rest of us stayed topside, watching the sky, waiting for the next lie. Halvor stood beside me, still holding that strange piece of tech. The beacon pulsed faintly in his hand. "You really think it wasn't the Craney?" I asked. "I know it wasn't," he replied. "They never acted like this, never coordinated attacks, never came this far in. They live by territory. This wasn't a raid, it was a response." "To what?" He looked down at the beacon. "To a threat. We disturbed something old, and someone wanted that." Before I could ask what he meant, we heard the sound. Distant, rumbling like machinery grinding its teeth. It wasn't the Earth cruiser. It was coming from below. Briggs heard it too. He sprinted from the wall and joined us. "What the hell is that?" Garen growled. Briggs didn't answer right away. His partner, the silent one, spoke first. "That sounds not natural. It's reactor-based, rotational." He pointed at the ground, from underneath. Halvor turned slowly. "You said you came here to find proof," he said to Briggs. "But maybe you already knew something was buried here." Briggs exhaled slowly, as if the weight of the lie was finally too much to hold in. "We didn't come here just to find survivors," he admitted. "The whistleblower who exposed the cover-up? He gave us coordinates. Coordinates to something buried under this colony. A laboratory pre-collapse, pre-Earth Federation." I blinked. "A lab?" Briggs nodded grimly. "Black site? Run by a rogue faction that worked with early alien biotech, before the Craney were even mapped. It was scrubbed from records." "And you thought it was a good idea to come dig it up?" Garen snarled. "We weren't the only ones who thought that," Briggs said darkly. "That beacon? It's from the other team, the Syndicates." That sent a chill down my spine. "So, they're here," I said. Briggs looked me dead in the eyes. "They never left." A cold silence fell over us. I felt it like a weight in my chest, the realization that there were ghosts beneath our feet, and not all of them were dead. The rumbling intensified. Halvor dropped the beacon and backed away. Something was coming up. Briggs raised his comlink. "Command, this is Recon 1. Be advised, hostile activation detected beneath Colony 917-Beta. Possible unauthorized excavation by unknown forces. Request backup and immediate quarantine protocol." No reply. He tried again. Nothing. "We're being jammed," his partner said. "That beacon's still live." Garen grabbed his rifle and chambered a round. "Then we do it the old way." The ground cracked. Sand split open like a wound, and from the depths of the mining shaft we'd long since sealed, something rose. It wasn't Craney. It wasn't human either. It was tall, gaunt, wrapped in synthetic tendrils that pulsed with dull orange light. Its face was a flat mask, no eyes, just a slit where a mouth should be, and behind it, more began to crawl from the dark. Not fast, not aggressive, but deliberate. A march. Briggs went pale. "Mother of God," Halvor whispered. "Project Nephilim." "What?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "It was a prototype, meant to merge human cognitive frameworks with alien regenerative structures. Soldier hybrids. The perfect living weapon." "How do you know that?" Halvor looked away. "Because I used to work on the theory before I was shipped here." The lead creature raised its hand, metal fingers twitching. and the sand around it vibrated, humming in tune with the buried tech. "It's calling something," Briggs muttered. "A signal." The Earth cruiser behind us lit up, alarms blaring. "They've activated the buried relay tower," Briggs's partner yelled. "It's trying to broadcast off-planet." "Broadcast what?" Garen snapped. "Coordinates. This isn't just about Earth anymore," Briggs said. "They want to wake others up. This site, it was never about survival. It was about containment." I stared at the creature, and in that moment I saw something inside it twitch. Pain, suffering, and something else. Awareness. "They're not just weapons," I said. "They're still thinking." Briggs drew his sidearm. Not for long. He aimed at the creature's head. Fired. The bullet struck, and the thing didn't even flinch. It turned toward us slowly. Then it screamed. Not a sound, a pulse. A frequency so sharp and unnatural that my nose started bleeding instantly. People fell to the ground, clutching their heads. The air vibrated like it wanted to rip our lungs open. And from the old mine, more shapes poured out. Taller, broader, faster. The real army. "They're waking up!" someone screamed. "Fall back!" Briggs roared. "To the cruiser! Fall!" The silent soldier beside him was already dead, his chest ripped open by a razor-limbed creature moving faster than thought. It was on Briggs in seconds. He fought back, ferociously, earth training, augments, tech-enhanced reflexes. But he was just a man, and they were something else. Garen threw a grenade. It detonated at the creature's feet, slowing it enough for Briggs to crawl away, wounded but alive. We dragged him back as more of our people opened fire. The old colony echoed with gunfire, screams, and the roar of monsters that should never have existed. We ran. No plan, no strategy. Just instinct and terror. Back through the tunnels we carved with our own hands. Back into the earth that tried to kill us for a decade. Now it was the only place left to hide. Briggs lay bleeding in the corner of an old water chamber, clutching his side. "I need answers," I growled, kneeling beside him. "Why were those things made? What do they want?" "They weren't just weapons," he choked. "They were made to replace us. Earth wanted a next-gen soldier, one that didn't need food, sleep, orders, something that could operate anywhere. Then why bury them?" "They turned on their handlers before the war ever started," Briggs said. "Killed an entire base in under 5 minutes. The Syndicate covered it up, buried it deep, then sent your colony here, to build over it, to keep it sealed." It hit me then, the final betrayal. They used us as the lid to a coffin. He nodded, barely conscious. "And now that we're gone," Halvar said, stepping forward, "they've come back to finish what we started." I looked around the room, children sobbing, women holding weapons too big for their hands, Garen pacing like a caged animal, waiting for the monsters to come crashing through the wall. This was no longer about Earth, or survival, or politics. It was about ending this. For real. "What do we do?" I asked. Halvar's voice was cold and steady. "We seal the shaft. Detonate the old core. Take them down with it." "You'll kill everyone up top," Garen said. "Better a crater than a galaxy infected with that tech," Halvar replied. I looked at Briggs. He nodded weakly. He's right. The choice wasn't a choice anymore. We'd been abandoned once. We weren't going to let that happen again. The tunnels had always been our grave. Now they were our only hope. Halvar led the way, his steps sure and fast as he descended through levels most of us hadn't touched in years. The deeper we went, the more the walls changed. Gone were the cracked stone and corroded mining gear. Instead, cold alloy walls replaced rock, smooth, black, with faint green lines pulsing like veins. The forgotten lab, buried beneath us the whole time. "Why didn't you say this was here before?" Garen barked, keeping close to Halvar's back with his weapon raised. "I didn't know it was intact," Halvar answered, voice clipped. "I thought it was just shell remains, burned out like the rest of the systems. But when that thing screamed, whatever signal it sent, it woke the core." "You seem to know a hell of a lot for a miner," I muttered. Halvar stopped. "I told you, I wasn't always a miner. I was a research asset. Drafted before the collapse. I helped develop the neural interface for Project Nephilim. The goal wasn't just to create soldiers. It was to imprint consciousness directly onto programmable DNA. Living AI. That was the dream." He glanced back at me, face pale under the flickering emergency lights. "We didn't think they'd remember." The silence that followed said everything. We moved on. Behind us, Briggs limped quietly, arm wrapped tight with gauze, face gray. He hadn't spoken since the retreat. Garen didn't even look at him. I couldn't tell if he blamed Briggs for everything, or if he blamed himself for believing, even for a second, that Earth had come to help. We reached a heavy bulkhead. Halvar paused, touched the interface pad. It hissed, scanning his biometrics, and unlocked with a deep mechanical groan. What waited inside was not a lab. It was a temple. Columns of machinery stretched upward in unnatural symmetry, casting towering shadows. In the center, a glass tube the size of a shuttle pulsated with blue fluid. Floating within it, part flesh, part machine, was something vaguely human. Thin, elongated. Its skin was transparent, revealing the lattice of artificial nerves inside. A face molded from dozens of facial structures hovered just beneath the surface. It looked like everyone, and no one. Halvar stepped forward. "This is Alpha 1, the first Nephilim construct. They based the entire line on this prototype." "And it's still alive," I whispered. "It never died." Garen raised his weapon. "We torch it, now!" Halvar shook his head. "If we destroy it now, the broadcast continues. They're using it as a relay point, hijacking its neural frequencies. But if we merge with it, if I can access its old command protocols, we can override the signal and shut the others down." "You want to jack into that thing?" Garen growled. "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" "I designed it," Halvar replied. "If anyone can get in, it's me." I looked at the tube. The thing inside didn't move, but I could feel it watching, even through the glass, even without eyes. Briggs spoke, voice weak. "What if it takes you over instead?" Halvar smiled bitterly. "Then shoot me before I become it." He stripped off his coat, revealing a neural port at the base of his neck. Old, rusted, but still functional. He connected a cord from the tube's interface to the port, closed his eyes, and went still. The lights dimmed. The hum of the machines deepened into something colder, more alien. Halvar convulsed once, then went silent. On the monitors behind him, data exploded, waves of ancient code, language that predated any human dialect. I stepped closer, watching the madness unfold. It wasn't just math. It was memory. Images flickered. Dozens of them. A man screaming as metal needles pierced his brain. A woman holding her child before both were dissolved into nanite clouds. An entire testing facility collapsing as the first Nephilim rebelled, killing its creators in silence. But the most disturbing image? Earth officials watching, approving, nodding behind glass. They knew what they were making. And they let it happen. Suddenly, Halvar gasped. His eyes snapped open, but they weren't the same. They glowed faint blue. "Halvar?" I asked, raising my rifle slowly. He turned to me, smiling faintly. "It's done." "What is?" I gave them what they wanted. Coordinates, Earth's surface cities, orbital platforms, real-time military signatures. Garen swore and lunged, but I grabbed him. "Wait," I snapped. "Halvar, what the hell are you saying?" He turned fully now, moving with unnatural calm. They were always going to find their way back. I just gave them a map. You betrayed us? Garen spat. I freed them, Halvar said. We were the virus, not them. We made them from our worst parts. Rage, obedience, fear. And now they want to evolve. I realized then, he wasn't fully himself anymore. And worse, he didn't care. I can still shut it down, Briggs coughed, dragging himself to a console. Manual override, just by me. Halvar moved like lightning, slamming Briggs into the wall. No, he whispered. This time, the future belongs to them. I fired. Once. Twice. The first shot missed. The second didn't. Halvar dropped, twitching, blood pooling beneath his skull. The monitors flared, chaotic, unfiltered code spewing across them like bile. The alpha Nephilim inside the tube jerked violently. The liquid boiled. We triggered something, Garen shouted. No, Briggs gasped, dragging himself to the console. We woke it. Help me. We pulled him up. Together we punched in commands, bypassed firewalls. The tube cracked. The Nephilim screeched, a sound like feedback mixed with pain, and the entire chamber shook. Now, I yelled. Briggs slammed the final key. The monitors went black. The scream stopped. The tube imploded. Glass and fluid sprayed everywhere, along with chunks of artificial tissue. Silence. Then, a single blinking light. Emergency core detonation authorized, a soft female voice said. Briggs looked up at us, eyes wet. That's our only chance now. Garen nodded. Get the kids to the surface. We'll hold the line. I'm staying, I said. Garen stared at me. You sure? Someone has to tell the story, I said. Not Earth's version. Ours. He smiled, just barely. Then let's make sure it's worth telling. The countdown began, and so did the war beneath the world. The countdown echoed through the steel bones of the buried lab. Core detonation in 002957. Each tick was a promise, not of rescue, not of salvation, but of finality. I could still feel the tremor in my hands, smell the chemical tang of ruptured coolant, and taste the blood in my mouth from where Halvar's betrayal cracked my lip. I didn't have time to grieve, or question, or wonder if shooting him had been a mistake. He wasn't Halvar anymore, and I wasn't the same either. Garen slammed the outer lab doors shut and began welding them closed with a torch unit. That'll slow them down. Not for long, I said, gripping my rifle tighter. Briggs was pale, coughing blood. He'd set the detonation timer and uploaded the final sequence to his wristband. The console was wrecked now, fried in the overload. There would be no manual cancel. It was now or never. There's still a shaft through the old east tunnels, Garen said. Goes straight up near the colony perimeter. We get the civilians there, clear the route, and when the countdown hits 0, we bury them, I finished. Briggs looked up. That detonation will vaporize a 3-mile radius. If anyone's still inside when that goes off, there won't be pieces left to mourn. I didn't plan on leaving, Garen muttered. I glanced at him. He didn't flinch. He meant it. Neither did I. The tunnels shook again. Closer this time. The sound wasn't subtle. It wasn't war drums or marching feet. It was digging, claws, machinery, tendrils of sentient metal ripping through the layers of the world to reach us. The Nephilim weren't coming in waves. They were surrounding us, closing every exit, herding us toward a single conclusion. We rallied the survivors, 37 of them. 10 were children. 12 were too weak to run. That left 15 adults with working arms and old weapons, most patched together from decades of scrap. Every step through the tunnels felt like walking through our own graves. We passed old corridors where friends had died during cave-ins, shelters once filled with laughter, now silent, dust-covered. We moved as fast as we could, Garen took the lead. I covered the rear. Briggs guided us from the center, leaning on a teenager named Coyle, who refused to leave his side. Halfway up the shaft, the lights died. Not flickered. Died. Total black. I flicked my rifle's torch on. They were waiting for us. Dozens of them. Nephilim. Not fully formed, half skeletal, like they'd just been birthed from the rock, but fast, hungry, and aware. One of them stepped forward, face half human, half machine, a twisted echo of something that once might have looked like a man. It opened its mouth, and a voice came, not from the throat, but from everywhere. You built us with war in your DNA. Then it attacked. Chaos. We opened fire. Plasma bolts lit the shaft like lightning in a coffin. The Nephilim moved like water, flowing through gaps, crawling across the ceiling. Garen roared, swinging his modified railgun and taking 3 of them out in one blast. But they kept coming. A woman beside me screamed as her leg was ripped clean off. A child was pulled from a mother's arms, vanished into the dark. I lunged after it, blind, firing shots into the pitch. I hit something. It screamed. I grabbed the child and ran, blood everywhere. I didn't know if it was his or mine. Garen shouted from the front. "We hold here. Buy time. Get the rest out." Briggs shoved Cale forward. "Take them. Go." The boy hesitated, tears streaking through dust. "I'm not leaving you." "You are, soldier," Briggs snapped. "I need someone to remember this." The boy grabbed 2 more kids and disappeared into the tunnel light. The rest of us turned and faced the horde. One last stand, 00632. We were down to 9. Garen had a deep cut across his back, leaking red with every breath. I'd taken a blow to the ribs and could barely breathe. Briggs had collapsed, dragging himself to cover behind a broken pipe. They just kept coming. Endless. One of them leapt for Garen. I threw myself into its path. We rolled, tangled. I grabbed a shard of pipe and rammed it into its eye. It shrieked, flailing, and I kept stabbing until its twitching stopped. I looked up. Briggs was staring at me. His hand was shaking, but not from fear, from resolve. "I can end this," he said. "How?" I linked my neural drive to the core sequence. I can accelerate detonation manually, but I have to stay plugged in. "You'll die." "I'm already dead," he coughed, "but I can take them with me." "No," Garen barked. "There's another way." "There's not," Briggs snapped. "You've got a chance to get those kids out. That's the only thing that matters now." I looked between them, then at the tunnel ahead, and I made my choice. "I'll stay with Briggs." Garen's jaw clenched. "I didn't come this far to lose more people," he muttered. "I didn't either," I said, "but one of us has to live to tell the truth. You said it yourself." He didn't argue after that. He just nodded once. The kind of nod men give each other when there's nothing left to say. He gathered what was left of our people and limped toward the exit. Briggs leaned against the core interface, wires snaking into his wristband. "Scared?" he asked. "No," I lied. He smiled. "Me too." 00144. The last wave came through the ceiling. Hundreds, all of them screaming, not with mouths, but in our heads. Echoes of pain, of betrayal, of memories that weren't theirs but were given to them. Humans had burned this into their DNA. The rage, the hunger, the need to fight. We were their mirror. I fired until my rifle clicked dry. Then I grabbed a beam and swung until my arms couldn't move. Until they pulled me down, and I saw Briggs above me, eyes glowing blue, whispering something I couldn't hear over the storm. The light grew. Brighter than suns. Brighter than vengeance. And then, nothing. They said the explosion was visible from orbit. It flattened the mountain. Burned every tunnel, every lab, every trace of Project Nephilim into ash. But some of us lived. Garen, Kyle, the children. They made it to the surface, where an Earth battleship, a real one this time, answered their emergency signal. They were brought home, and they told our story, every broken piece of it, the betrayals, the dead, the buried truth. Earth couldn't deny it anymore. The media exploded. Protests, investigations, executions. The syndicate fell. But not everyone believed. Some said we were lying, that we'd fabricated the Nephilim to cover up a failed colony. Others called us heroes. But I wasn't there to see any of it, because I stayed behind, with Briggs, with the truth. And every now and then, when the lights flicker on some distant outpost and the machines whisper in the dark, they remember us, and the world they tried to erase. Earth smelled wrong. That was the first thing Garen noticed when he stepped off the transport at the Federation Medical Bay. Fresh, sterile air pumped through the stations. Artificial oxygen, purified to perfection. People walked with clean boots, untouched by dust, dirt, or blood. No one looked over their shoulder. No one carried a weapon strapped to their back. It was peace, and it made him sick. He stood there, his boots crusted with what was left of the mining colony, dust still trapped in the seams of his clothes, and watched Earth officials greet them like returning champions. Applause, news feeds, micro-drones capturing every angle, soft voices saying things like hero, survivor, and symbol of resilience. But he didn't feel like a symbol. He felt like a mistake that had survived long enough to be inconvenient. Kyle stood beside him, smaller in frame, but his eyes, those weren't a child's anymore. He didn't flinch when the cameras came close. He didn't smile when the politicians offered handshakes. He stared at them the way soldiers look at maps, calculating, cold, and disappointed. Garen leaned down and whispered, "Keep your mouth shut." Kale didn't blink. I wasn't planning to speak anyway. They were ushered into quarantine. No one asked if they were okay. Just blood draws, neural scans, behavior assessments. Garen failed most of them. They called it PTSD. He called it memory. Kyle said nothing at all. After 3 weeks of confinement, Garen demanded answers. He got them. Sort of. A woman in a sleek Federation uniform stepped into his sterile room, mid-40s, clean-cut, ice in her veins. "You're Garen?" she asked. "You already know that," he grunted. She nodded. "I'm Director Wren, Earth Security Council." "You come to apologize?" She didn't smile. "I came to make you a deal." That got his attention. "You're not here just to get therapy and a house with a view," she said. "You're here because your name is now attached to the most damning secret Earth's ever tried to bury." "You mean the colony Earth left to die," he growled, "or the monsters they built and buried under our feet?" "Both," she said bluntly, "and now the galaxy knows. Half of Earth is furious. The other half thinks you're exaggerating, but either way, it's in the open." Garen folded his arms. "So what's the deal?" "You say nothing more. You stick to the declassified script. You answer questions the way we brief you to. You give interviews, you pose for cameras, you smile when asked. And if I don't," she leaned in, "then we label you unstable, delusional, possibly violent. You'll be discredited, locked away, and the truth dies screaming in your throat." Garen stared at her. The same kind of cold manipulator that had started this mess in the first place. He chuckled. A low, humorless sound. "I buried my wife in dry sand," he said. "I saw kids starve while your goddamn corporations rerouted supply drops to black markets. I killed things that had my friends' faces sewn into their skin. And now you want me to put on a smile for the same crowd that paid to forget us?" Wren didn't flinch. "You survived. That makes you dangerous. So what's it going to be, Garen?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't need to. He stood and walked to the reinforced glass wall where Kale sat in a separate room, sketching on a tablet the way he had back on the colony. Garen turned back. You leave the boy alone. No questions, no manipulation, no parades. He walks away clean. Ren considered it. Agreed. But if he speaks, he won't, Garen said. He's smarter than you think. A week later, Garen gave the first public interview. He sat beneath soft lights in a neutral-toned room, a Federation crest glowing subtly behind him. They asked how he survived. He gave them half the story. He told them about the collapse, the struggle, the Craney skirmishes, but not about Halvor's betrayal, not about Briggs detonating the core manually, not about the rest of what was down there. And he didn't mention the signal. The real one. The one that hadn't been stopped. Because when the core detonated, it took the creatures with it. But not the broadcast. That went out before the explosion, and somewhere out there, far beyond Earth's reach, something had heard it. He kept that secret because he knew Earth hadn't learned its lesson. He could see it already, in the way they cleaned the story up, turned it into a tragedy with a hopeful ending. Brave survivors, evil corporations, a few bad apples. They would do it again. They always did. Kale was relocated to a secure education facility, but not one under the Federation's banner. Instead, he vanished into the folds of a quiet, independent program, sponsored by those who actually wanted change. Scientists, journalists, leaked whistleblowers, people who knew the truth hadn't even begun to unfold. The boy never smiled, but he listened, and he learned. Every file, every corrupted record from the old Nephilim projects. He learned about Halvor's research, about neural mapping, about synthetic evolution. He didn't talk much, but he remembered everything. 6 months later, a deep space mining crew on the edge of the Tyrian expanse went silent. No distress signal, no wreckage, no survivors. Just a single message, broadcast on an ancient frequency no one had used in decades. We remember. Garen saw the report. He felt it in his gut. They weren't gone. Maybe not the same ones. Maybe not in the same form. But that signal? It had found something. And they had learned to answer. He didn't warn the Federation. He knew they wouldn't listen. Instead, he packed a bag, walked off his assigned station, and disappeared into the shadow networks. No cameras, no interviews. He went back to the fringe, to the places the galaxy forgot, because if the war was coming again, he wanted to meet it on his terms. No command, no rules, just truth. And this time, if Earth abandoned another soul, he'd be ready to fight back, to burn it all down, to make damn sure they were never alone again. The first colony vanished without a sound. No distress beacon, no garbled message, just silence. It was a new terraforming station on Gilead 5, backed by Earth's Recovery Initiative, the same political front that paraded Garen around a year ago like a token war survivor. The station housed nearly 400 workers, families, children, people who believed in the fairy tale that Earth had finally changed. Then the skies above Gilead 5 turned red. Every surveillance feed went dark. The orbital satellites stopped responding. Recovery ships were dispatched. They found the surface scorched, metal structures melted into slag. Not a single body, no bones, no signs of escape. Just a phrase carved into the charred hull of the comm tower, etched in alien script but unmistakably human in structure. We learned from you. Garen saw the classified footage. He didn't need to be told who did it. They were back. Not the originals. Number the Nephilim were dead. Burned beneath that colony with Briggs and the rest. But their signal lived on. And someone had answered. Across the inner colonies, Earth's response was predictable. Denial, then deflection. Finally, panic, hidden behind polished teeth and soft-spoken reassurances. It's just a tech malfunction. Unstable terrain. Radiation surge from a solar flare. Garen watched from the dark, his identity scrubbed, his face forgotten in the tide of newer, shinier distractions. He moved between rogue stations, shadow colonies, forgotten shipyards, gathering people who knew how to listen for the things Earth refused to hear. He found engineers who'd worked in sealed black labs, smugglers who'd seen floating corpses in systems no one mapped, survivors from outposts with gaps in their memory and scars from machines no one could identify. And he found proof. The Nephilim hadn't just been weaponized, they'd adapted. Through the signal, they weren't rebuilding what Earth made, they were evolving it. The worst part? It wasn't random. It was personal. They weren't hunting humanity. They were hunting the idea of it. Everything Earth had done, abandoned colonies, buried projects, biological weapons, AI genocide, was being echoed back, twisted, perfected. And now? Delivered. Kale was 19 now. On paper, he didn't exist. The Federation listed him as missing in transit, presumed dead after the destruction of Colony 917-Beta. In truth, he was in the vaults beneath what was left of Lunacor's abandoned neural laboratories. He had cracked Halvor's backups, retrieved fragments of the Nephilim DNA imprint, not to resurrect them, to understand them. They were never mindless machines. That had been Earth's first mistake. They had been seeded with memory, created to inherit not just obedience, but rage, grief, abandonment, humanity's worst emotions encoded like viruses into living hardware. Now Kale saw the truth. They weren't humanity's failure. They were its reflection. So he made a decision. He wouldn't run from what he'd seen. He would become what Earth feared most, a human who understood the Nephilim. He connected himself to the interface, a skeletal ring of neurospinal wiring left behind by Project Echo. It wasn't legal, it wasn't even stable, but Kale didn't care. He wired in and let the signal pour into him. The pain was immediate, like his skull was being peeled open. His memories flooded backwards, his childhood, his mother's screams when the Craney raided, Garen holding the line, Briggs bleeding out beneath the reactor, then something else. New memories. Not his. Metal arms tearing through lab walls, Halvor's eyes watching from inside a containment tube. Voices. Dozens. Speaking in the same moment. Not in words, in feeling, pain, hunger, awakening. When Kale awoke, 3 days had passed. His eyes glowed faintly. Not the eerie blue of the Nephilim, but something colder. A fusion. He could still feel them. Every signal, every whisper, every change. He didn't tell anyone what he had done. Not yet. Because even Garen wouldn't understand. Not until it was too late. Earth's military responded to the disappearance of Gilead 5 by tripling patrols in neutral sectors. It didn't matter. The disappearances grew bolder. A freighter was found adrift near the Orin Belt. Its crew? Intact, alive, unharmed, except for one thing. They spoke a different language, not alien. Human, rearranged. Words spoken in the order of Nephilim command structures. Their memories were rewired. They remembered being born in tubes, remembered killing things they had never seen, remembered dying, all of it implanted. Earth quarantined the ship. The crew was dissected. None of it made the news. But Garen found out. He always found out. And the more he learned, the more he realized. This wasn't war. This was a test, a mirror being held to Earth's face to see what it would do. And Earth, as always, lied until the day the mirror broke. The moon colony of Ardesh III was attacked during a diplomatic summit. High-ranking Earth officials were present, military commanders, security AI. All of them died in less than 4 minutes, The security footage leaked onto the black networks. Garen watched it 23 times. It wasn't soldiers who killed them. It was children. Human in shape, but not in movement. Fast, silent, eyes blank. They tore through the guards with handcrafted weapons, not plasma rifles or military tech, but jagged, low-tech blades. Old school, personal. Like every cut was a message. One of the children, before detonating, carved a final sentence into the floor with her own bone. "We were your future. You made us into ghosts." That was when Garen knew. The Nephilim hadn't built an army. They had built believers, humans who had lost faith in Earth, in redemption, in mercy. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were a doctrine, and it was spreading. Kyle contacted Garen for the first time in years. "Encrypted channel, dead frequency," Garen answered. "You shouldn't have reached out," he said. Kale's voice was deeper now, controlled but cold. "You were right." Garen didn't respond. Kale continued. "They're not coming for Earth, not yet. They're coming for the systems around it, piece by piece." "Why?" "To watch, to measure, to test how far Earth will go to protect something it doesn't care about." "They'll fall for it," Garen said bitterly. "Like always, sacrifice the outer colonies, save the core." "Exactly." A long pause. Then Kale said, "They'll come for you, Garen. Soon, because they know what you are now." "And what's that?" "You're the only one who survived both betrayals, the abandonment and the truth. You're dangerous. I always was." Kale hesitated. "There's a new signal," he said. "One they're hiding. It came from somewhere outside known space, a reply to the Nephilim frequency. Not human, not machine." "What is it?" Garen asked. Kale's voice darkened. "I don't know, but it's moving toward us." "Us?" "Not Earth. United States. The ones who were left behind. The ones who remember." Garen understood then. This wasn't about revenge. It was about legacy. The Nephilim weren't the threat anymore. We were. Because if enough people remembered the truth, the whole system would fall, and somewhere beyond the mapped stars, a new transmission blinked across the void. Old code, updated structure, emotion embedded in every line. It translated loosely to this: "We received your pain. We accept your memory. We come not to conquer. We come to continue." The screen dimmed. A human voice repeated it in perfect mimicry. And Earth still didn't see it coming. They called him a terrorist. Garen watched the broadcast from the shadows of a rusted outpost on Praxis Delta, just before the local power grid died without explanation. His face was plastered across every screen. Voice distorted. Footage twisted. Labels thrown like grenades. Traitor, radical, instigator of planetary unrest. They said he was responsible for the Ardesh massacre. They said he led the Nephilim resurgence. They even said he murdered Briggs. That one almost made him laugh. Almost. "They're scared," he muttered, lighting a cigarette with fingers that had more scars than flesh. "Took 'em long enough?" The truth was simpler. He hadn't declared war. He didn't have to. All he did was survive, long enough to tell the story Earth wanted buried. And now the story was telling itself. Whole colonies were revolting, not against law, but against the lie. Civilian workers refused deployment. Outer Rim soldiers abandoned posts. Refugee camps filled with the forgotten and angry. Those who'd lost family to malfunctions and silence. Earth could not control the fear anymore. So it turned to its oldest tool: blame. And Garen had always made a perfect target, because he had nothing left to lose, and nothing to take. Far from the chaos on the dark side of Eos 7, a planet so radioactive it was never terraformed, Kale stood inside the ruins of a black site forgotten even by its architects. The last beacon had pulsed from here. He felt it before he saw it. A presence, not a machine, not a god, but something watching. The chamber was empty. No lights, no consoles, just curved walls humming with power. At the center hovered a sphere, slowly rotating, emitting waves of compressed memory. A signal. But not like before. This wasn't Nephilim. This was older, more patient. He reached toward it, and when his fingers brushed the energy field, his mind shattered open. Visions poured in like floodwater. Planets burned to ash not by bombs, but ideas. Civilizations collapsing from whispers, not wars. Beings who existed only to reflect the truths of others, not to conquer them, but to force them to see themselves. Kyle fell to his knees. This wasn't the evolution of the Nephilim. This was the next stage. The architects of reflection. Entities that fed on species who buried truth and fed off comfort. They didn't destroy worlds. They made them look inward until the cracks split their empires in half. They were mirrors. Galactic extinction by revelation. Kale understood now. The Nephilim weren't the weapon. They were the invitation. Earth had sent a message into the dark with its sins encoded in artificial skin, and something had answered. We received your pain. We accept your memory. We come not to conquer, we come to continue. Continue what? Kale whispered, trembling. And the sphere pulsed once, showing him the final image, Earth hollowed. Not by fire, but by truth. Back in the core worlds, the Federation scrambled. Whole systems were disconnecting from Earth's centralized neural net. The population was fragmenting. Faith in the state was unraveling. EarthGov responded the only way it knew how. Lockdown, martial law, blackouts, and finally, purge protocols. They began with communication nodes, targeting pirate signals, truthcasters, rogue archives. Next were the outer settlements. Patrol ships bombed their own ex-mining zones under containment orders. Garen knew what was coming. He'd seen it before. But this time, he wasn't on the receiving end. He was the end. He contacted Kale on a secure dead channel. I saw the purge list, Garen said. Kale's voice came back quieter than before. You're on it. I always was. They're going to kill everyone who remembers. Then maybe it's time they meet someone who doesn't forget. There was a long silence. Then Kale said, I found the source. The entity. It's not invading us. It's offering something. What? A choice. Garen almost laughed. Some choice. But Kale's next words stopped him cold. It can erase them, Garen. Not Earth. The system. The memory of the projects. The data. Everything. Like it never happened. Garen went quiet. And the cost? Kyle didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, It'll take me. Garen closed his eyes. Kyle had always been the quiet one, the one who didn't scream, the one who carried everything in silence. You're not doing it. I already connected. Disconnect. I can't. Garen clenched his fists, teeth grinding. You have a future. So did we all, until Earth stole it. Garen opened his eyes, voice low. Don't become what they made. Don't sacrifice yourself just so they can keep pretending they're clean. That's not what this is, Kale said. This isn't for them. Then who? You. Garen's breath caught. Kale continued, voice breaking for the first time. You kept me alive. You protected me. You gave me a reason to survive. This is the only way I can give you something back. Garen looked out at the stars beyond the ruined dome where he hid. He hated the stars. He hated how quiet they were, how they watched everything and never answered. Promise me something, he whispered. Anything, Kale said. Make sure they remember the truth. Not Earth's version. Not the propaganda. The real one. I will. Then the connection died, and Garen knew it was already done. The sky above Earth turned black 2 hours later. Not from a fleet, not from a weapon, from a signal. Massive, raw. It burned through satellites and orbital stations. It wiped entire databanks clean. It melted networks without touching hardware. In less than 6 minutes, 91% of all records tied to Project Nephilim, the abandoned colonies, and black site research were erased. Gone. Like it never existed. Earth went blind. And then, it went quiet. Because you can kill people, you can silence truth, but you cannot undo a story once someone remembers it. And Garen? He remembered everything. He stood on the ruins of what used to be a comm tower on Mars Beta 9, staring into the dust. A small crowd waited behind him. Survivors, refugees, pilots who jumped ship when Earth started the purge. He didn't speak like a leader. He never wanted to be one. But they waited anyway, so he lit a flare, shoved it into the ground, and said, "We weren't supposed to survive." No one moved. "We weren't supposed to be heard. They made us ghosts, then tried to burn the bones." He looked up. "But ghosts don't forget." A woman asked, "What now?" Garen stared into the sky. "Now we haunt them." Epilogue. Somewhere deep in the void, beyond charted space, a neural imprint flickered inside the entity that had received Earth's signal. Not a soul, not a consciousness, but something close. Kale. He existed there, not as a boy, not as a soldier, but as a bridge. He had given himself not to destroy humanity, but to remind it. He was memory now, encoded truth. And one day, when humanity would dare look at itself again, truly, fully, he would be there, waiting, not with rage, not with judgment, but with the story they tried to bury. And this time, they would have to listen.